Hello and welcome to the Portal Stormer channel. My name is Kelly Proudfoot, and in this video we're going to be talking about the magic and mystery of mirrors. We're going to be talking about the history of mirrors, the different types of mirrors, but also the ways we can use mirrors, whether it's in healing or in magic. If you're scrying because you're wanting to meditate, there's all sorts of different things that mirrors are used for. Of course, we use them to look at ourselves, but it's probably one of the most fascinating of human inventions, which is because it's deeply intertwined into our self-awareness, which reflects both reality and illusion. I've always been fascinated with mirrors, but as the earliest tool for self-reflection, its importance rivals the invention of the wheel, if you think about it. And its use may even be more widespread. For example, the Incas possessed mirrors, but not wheels. So that's an interesting fact. There's a movie called Mirror, Mirror. I don't know if you've seen it, but it explores the mirror's development and its diverse applications throughout history, from its ritualistic use by the Aztecs to the elaborate mirrored rooms of ancient Rome, and its modern role in even astronomy, in observation. So it's in medical devices and everything. We're going to talk about that. But of course, if you were to answer the question, what is a mirror, you would say it's any object with a smooth, shiny surface that reflects light. And while flat mirrors are the most common, mirrors can be curved to change the size or shape of the reflection, or even to concentrate light, just like a magnifying glass. But well, I was thinking in terms of but early humans likely used to use still water and rivers and lakes, of course, as natural mirrors. I mean, especially if you were chasing someone from the next tribe, you might want to check yourself before you go out and, hunt them down. But the first manufactured mirrors were made of polished stone, like obsidian, and you can still get obsidian mirrors today for scrying, but it's actually quite expensive these days. Of course, natural minerals, are very hard to come by, with everybody mining them too. Anyway, I could go on about that, but there are examples of obsidian mirrors dating back to 6000 BC in Turkey, around 2000 BC in the Americas. But throughout history, polished copper mirrors were used back in Mesopotamia around 4000 BC, and in Egypt around 3000 BC. Bronze mirrors were developed in China around 2000 BC, with some of the earliest examples made by the Xisha culture. The first metal-coated glass mirrors are believed to have originated in Sidon around the 1st century AD. Pliny the Elder, writing around 77 AD, described Roman mirrors that were made of glass backed with gold leaf, and the Romans also created rudimentary mirrors by coating blown glass with molten lead. Sounds safe. And in the 10th century, the Arab physicist, and I'm going to probably get this wrong, but Ibn Sal, described parabolic reflecting mirrors, and somebody else, Ibn al-Haytham, also known as Alhazen, I apologise again, studied concave and convex mirrors in cylindrical and spherical forms, and he even conducted experiments with mirrors and solved the geometric problem of light reflection on a convex mirror. You might see convex mirrors every now and again if you're going around a steep curve on a winding road, just to show you if someone's coming from the other direction. But anyway, by the 11th century, clear glass mirrors were being manufactured in Moorish Spain, and during the early Renaissance, Europeans developed an improved method for coating glass mirrors using a tin mercury amalgam. And while the exact origins are unclear, Venice became a prominent mirror making centre in the 16th century due to its glass making expertise. and of course these mirrors were very expensive. Later, the French Saint-Gobain factory, along with Bohemian and German glassmakers, became significant producers, often offering more affordable options. And in 1835, German chemist Justus von Liebig, I hope I said that right, invented the silvered glass mirror using a chemical process to deposit a thin layer of silver onto glass. And this method was adapted for mass production, making mirrors much more affordable. And today mirrors are frequently made by coating glass with aluminium. That's my Aussie accent coming through, but of course you might, if you're American, you would say aluminum. And sometimes silver is used using a vacuum deposition process. And there's also two-way mirrors, which is also known as a one-way mirror or one-way glass, which allows viewing from both sides of the mirror, and it's made of glass coated with a very thin layer of metal which both reflects and transmits light. This means some light passes through while the rest is reflected, regardless of which side the light comes from. Two-way mirrors are commonly used to create the illusion of a regular mirror in a well-lit room, while allowing people in a darker room on the other side to see through it. So because the bright room's reflected light is much stronger than the light coming from the dark room, those in the bright room can only see their reflection. Conversely, the light from the bright room overpowers the light reflected from the dark room, allowing those in the dark room to observe the bright room discreetly. So there's the different types of mirrors and a very loose history. And now we're going to go on to the literature, mirrors in literature. And they hold significant symbolic weight in literature, appearing in stories from the Greek myth of Narcissus to the biblical phrase, "through a glass darkly." Fairy tales like Snow White feature mirrors as objects of vanity and truth, and mirrors are also central to well-known works such as Lewis Carroll's Through the Looking Glass and The Mirror of Erised in the Harry Potter series. Their presence in horror films like Candyman and Mirrors further demonstrates their cultural impact. The Greek myth of Narcissus is a morality tale about a prideful young man, a prideful young man punished by the gods for rejecting his male lovers. It was likely meant to warn young men against such behaviour. This version of the story is known from several sources. A summary of Conon's work by Photius and bloody hell. A summary of Conon's work by Photius, a passage by Pausanias, and most recently a similar account found in the, and just bear with me, Oxyrhynchus papyri, dating back to at least 50 years before Ovid's version and possibly written by Parthenius. In this version of the Narcissus myth, an older man named Amanius loved Narcissus, but his affections were rejected, so Narcissus cruelly gave Amanius a sword which Amanius used to commit suicide on Narcissus' doorstep. With his dying breath, Amanius called upon Nemesis to punish Narcissus by making him experience the agony of unrequited love, and this curse came to pass when Narcissus fell in love with his own reflection in a pool. In a final tragic mirroring of Amanius's fate, Narcissus, filled with remorse, then killed himself with his own sword. Ovid's Roman version of the Narcissus myth, likely inspired by Parthenius but adapted for a wider audience, tells of the nymph Echo and her love for the vain Narcissus. Narcissus was the son of the nymph Liriope and the river god Cephisus. Liriope was concerned about his beauty and consulted the prophet Tiresias, who foretold that Narcissus would live a long life if he didn't come to know himself. At 15 years old, Narcissus was desired by everyone, but he arrogantly rejected them all. One day, while he was hunting, the nymph Echo followed him secretly through the woods, unable to speak to him first. When Narcissus called out, Echo could only repeat his words. Eventually, Echo revealed herself and tried to embrace him, but he pushed her away, telling her to leave him alone. Echo was heartbroken, and she spent the rest of her life alone, longing for Narcissus' love, until only her voice remained. Nemesis, hearing Echo's plea, punished Narcissus. He encountered a pool in the woods, and upon drinking from it saw his own reflection for the first time. He fell deeply in love with the beautiful image, unaware that it was himself. After a period of longing, he finally recognized the reflection as his own, and realizing the impossibility of his love, he grieved intensely, and his life force waned. And as he died, Echo was now just a voice. Interesting. As he died, Echo, now just a voice, witnessed his sorrow and felt pity. Narcissus' soul was sent to the underworld, and the Narcissus flower bloomed where he perished, so legend says he continues to gaze at his reflection in the river Styx. Pausanias places the spring where Narcissus saw his reflection at Donacon in Thespian territory. He questions how Narcissus could mistake a reflection for a person and mentions an alternate version where Narcissus had a twin sister. They were identical in appearance and often hunted together. Narcissus fell in love with her, and after her death he mourned her, imagining that the reflection he saw was his sister. Some Greek stories even suggest a prior incestuous relationship between Narcissus and his twin. Pausanias also mentions a different story where the Narcissus flower was created to lure Persephone away from her friends so Hades could kidnap her. The myth of Narcissus has inspired artists for ages, and even before Ovid's version in his Metamorphosis. Later, poets like Keats and Housman, and painters like Caravaggio, Poussin, and Turner, Dali, and Waterhouse also explored the myth. Authors like Dostoevsky, with characters like Golyadkin in The Double, and Stendhal with Mathilde in Le Rouge et le Noir, I hope I was okay with that, have also depicted narcissistic figures. In Stendhal's novel Prince Korasoff, he observes that Mathilde sees an idealized version of Julien, not Julien himself, highlighting her narcissism. The lyrics to the song, and I'm going to try not to get so excited, but my favourite band in the world is Tool, and the lyrics to their song Reflection are partly about the narcissist myth, looking into reflection and pining away. I just love every hour. I better not start talking about Tool because I'm going to friggin' lose it. Anyway, back to it. Adoption is terminology used in psychology, and this fascinates me. So in 1898, Havelock Ellis used narcissus-like to describe excessive masturbation, where the individual becomes their own sexual object. Paul Nash, I hope I said that right, or Nash, first used the term narcissism in 1899 within a study of sexual perversions. Otto Rank, who was actually a really good friend and the doctor for Anais Nin, another amazing woman that I will do a numerological profile on one day soon. But Otto Rank, who was a well-known psychoanalyst back then, wrote a paper in 1911 which was considered the first psychoanalytic work specifically on narcissism, and connected it to vanity and self-admiration. Sigmund Freud published his only dedicated paper on the topic called On Narcissism, An Introduction in 1914. So there could be a lot more in arts and everything, but I'm going to go on now and talk about mirrors and superstition. So mirrors are the subject of numerous myths and superstitions. They're often seen as reflections of the soul and have been used in witchcraft for divination and spells. Because mirrors are believed to show only the truth, seeing something amiss in a reflection is considered a bad omen. Another superstition warns against newborns seeing their reflection before their first birthday. There's another wives' tale, but, you know, typical with superstitions, because if a newborn saw their reflection before their first birthday, it was thought that their developing soul was vulnerable and the sight could lead to death. Breaking a mirror, of course, is a very well known and widely held superstition believed to bring 7 years of bad luck. And this belief may stem from the idea that a mirror reflects a part of the soul, and breaking the mirror damages the soul. The soul is thought to regenerate every 7 years, which is interesting because the cells regenerate every 7 years. So that would show why they said that the duration of the bad luck would be 7 years. And to avoid that fate, various rituals exist, the simplest being to destroy the broken pieces so the reflective soul cannot be seen. And the superstition could also simply be rooted in the historical expense of mirrors. I mean, if you broke it, yeah, that's it, you're going to cop it for 7 years. Another superstition says that tapping a broken mirror on a gravestone 7 times can heal the damaged soul. And burying the mirror is also believed to protect the soul by preventing its reflection. However, doing both, tapping and burying, is said to perpetuate the bad luck. In that case, the only solution is to unearth the mirror, grind it to dust, and then scatter the dust around the same gravestone where it was initially tapped. Sounds like a lot. In the southern United States, it was once common practice to cover mirrors in homes where someone had died, as it was thought their soul could become trapped within them. This custom persists in some other countries like Greece, where reflective surfaces including televisions are covered. Another reason given for this practice is the fear that the devil might appear in the reflection of the deceased. Mirrors that fall, break or crack inexplicably were often believed to be haunted. Vampires are traditionally believed to lack reflections because they're undead and soulless. Spectrophobia is the fear of mirrors. I wanted to mention that too. I just think that's wonderful, because I thought it would be ghosts, but spectrophobia is the fear of mirrors. And another common superstition warns against placing 2 mirrors opposite each other, as this is thought to bring bad luck. Yeah, my imagination runs wild at the best of times, but at night time when I'm going to the bathroom, I don't know why, but I always remember, oh, the Bloody Mary thing. No, I don't need to be looking in the mirrors. So what do? I just go, money, 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 because I'm thinking if something's going to come through. Anyway, the game Bloody Mary is a common slumber party activity, and it involves chanting Bloody Mary 3 times while staring into a mirror in a darkened room. The objective is to summon a ghostly figure named Mary, who is believed to appear in the mirror and attempt to harm the summoner. Like, yeah, you're going to invite that? Variations of the game exist, including substituting Candyman for Mary, inspired by horror films featuring a mirror-dwelling supernatural entity. In Jewish folklore, Lilith is portrayed as Adam's first wife, and she was expelled from the Garden of Eden for defying Adam's authority, specifically by refusing to submit to a subordinate sexual position. Following her banishment, she was demonized, of course, and Eve was created as Adam's second wife, formed from his rib to guarantee her obedience. This excerpt from a Jewish folktale illustrates some of the malevolent attributes associated with Lilith. So this is a quote from Lilith's Cave, Jewish Tales of the Supernatural, which was edited by Howard Schwartz. The wife brought the mirror, and this is me going into this quote, the wife brought the mirror and all of the fine furnishings in the cellar to her own home and proudly displayed it. She hung the mirror in the room of their daughter, who was a dark-haired coquette. The girl glanced at herself in the mirror all the time, and in this way she was drawn into Lilith's web, for that mirror had hung in the den of demons, and a daughter of Lilith had made her home there. And when the mirror was taken from the haunted house, the demoness came with it. For every mirror is a gateway to the other world and leads directly to Lilith's cave. That is the cave Lilith went to when she abandoned Adam and the Garden of Eden for all time. the cave where she sported with her demon lovers too. From these unions, multitudes of demons. Anyway, I'm not going to go on a blah, blah, blah. Anyway, it's all about how if they want to return, they simply enter the nearest mirror. So of course it goes on talking about how the girl was possessed and such and so forth. But what I want to do now is go on about some deities to do with mirrors, and it was slim pickings when I was looking to see about deities. But in the Etruscan myths, the Larsa, which were female deities who were guardians of the graves, but they also were personal guardians. People would each have our own personal Larsa, which was a winged goddess who was often seen with a mirror, and sometimes their attributes were wreaths as well as mirrors. So that's a deity, and it was a general term for just like a nymph, the Larsa. But and also there was there was different mirrors around that were given to distinguish specific Larsas. A mirror from Volci shows the Larsa Thymrae with an alabastron in her left hand and a stick for distributing the contents of her alabastron in her right. So the Larsas, of course, were revered, and they embodied the roles of hero ancestors and guardian spirits, and they held significant influence over various aspects of human life and the natural world. So they had, it's nice to have a little deity that's just watching over the household. I know in ancient Egypt there was Bez. He's one of my favourite deities, who's also a dream deity. But now I'm going to go on and talk about my mirror story and how I used it to create the Storming Archives, my fantasy series, where a 30-year-old woman called Delman, who's gone through a psychotic break, ends up convalescing at her auntie's house and discovers a mirror, and it turns out to be the portal to the dream world, where she has to go through and integrate all the elements of her shadow so that she can finally be free. But there's a lot more to the story, and I don't want to give a lot away, because I would hope one day you'd either listen to my serialized version of the books or go over to Amazon and check them out. But for me, it started when I was really little, and I've talked on this channel. I've got other videos there talking about certain things. I'm going to continue talking about that, to how I'm healing from the trauma and blah blah blah. But when I was a kid, around about the age of 5, that my parents divorced, and my dad took my 2 brothers and I to go and live with my nana and pa. And while we were there, my cousin, who is the daughter of my dad's twin, was there too, because they were going through a separation. So there was a lot going on with us 4 kids there and everything. But I don't know whether it was trauma from being separated from mum or whatever, but apparently every night, and I barely remember it, but apparently every night for a while, I'd get up out of bed and I'd be found talking to myself in the mirror. And they'd have to come and tell me off, take me back to bed, and then they had to put towels or sheets over the mirrors. But it's funny how that didn't stop me. When everyone was settled, I'd go back and sneak under the sheet. I do remember looking in the mirror thinking it was another world. And I do remember thinking, how can I get in there? Do I have to say a special word? But I do remember conversing with someone and actually assuming it was someone else. I don't know. But apparently that went on for ages, and they were really annoyed with me. I would get in trouble for it. But it was just something that really stuck with me, because ever since then I've been fascinated with mirrors. I do a special clairvoyant thing, I suppose you could call it, where I just stare at myself in the mirror and just go into a Zen meditation, and it's amazing the things you see. And I'm still experimenting. I've been doing this with people for years too, but I'm still experimenting just to see if it's just my synapses misfiring, or an eye anomaly, or some kind of trick of the eye. But it's interesting what you see. And I will go on about those kind of interesting experiences in another video. But with my mirror story, it was so strong in my heart. When I started thinking, I really want to write a story about my experiences, but not really something mundane. I want it to be fantasy, even crazy, because I just wanted to flex my creative muscles, but also hopefully start working out some mental health issues, which helped. And I didn't want to pour all my crap into the character, and as authors often do, they will, idealize themselves through the main character. I wanted her to have some faults, and she was short-tempered, angry, but it's because of her upbringing and what she went through with her husband. Not that he was abusive, but he was just emotionally void. That had nothing. I was never married at the time, so that was just a character to move the story on. But with Delwyn, I decided that she was broken. She'd been through a divorce, and her mother, which is interesting because I wanted to kind of make her like my mother in terms of the demonic side that we had to put up with. But understanding that I couldn't do that, and Mum was alive at the time, but I made her that she was kind of different in every way, in terms like she was tall, very thin, this character. I called her Nancy, and she always just begrudged having a daughter anyway, and because her mother won custody, Delwyn was continuously going through some childhood trauma, so that kind of melded in with my story, but also including the astral traveling that I did, and also the really intense hypnagogic and hypnopompic hallucinations that I had with the sleep paralysis, which started around the same time at 5 years of age. So I decided to make my character similar in terms of her afflictions, including the astral travel, including the sleep paralysis, but also because she's always running, I say in the story, she ends up finding the mirror, and when she goes through, she ends up in a strange world which she discovers is the dream world, and she's met by Varun, who is little mascot that I use for this channel. He helps guide her through the dream world so she can confront all the things that she's either been hiding from or hasn't processed yet. And the mirror to me was really important because it was almost like that magical portal that you just can't find anywhere else. As a kid, when you're going through trauma or there's stuff going on, you're always looking for that way out. Is that nice person who just smiled as they walked past, could they take me by the hand and go and live with them? And then when I got older, the escapism, grew arms and legs and had a whole range of terrible coping mechanisms grow up around it. But with the mirror, what I love about it, it's like I said in the beginning, it shows the reality but also the illusion as well. Like, for example, I decided to make myself up because I thought I've been presenting myself as kind of a slob, but at the time I didn't care, and I kind of still don't care, because as far as I'm concerned, it's the message that means the most. But I did have an epiphany on Monday. I'm not going to keep going on about this, but I've come into my power, and I've thought, well, whatever I want coming back to me, I need to project that too. I can't just be sitting here like a lump on a log, just saying, here's my misery, please interact with me, But what I will say is I will be going and talking more about the mirror stuff in other videos, but I just wanted to do this little brief one just to talk about it and maybe see if other people are interested in this idea, especially with mental health and self-care and stuff. One thing that I found really difficult was when I started my BetterHelp therapy, and my therapist told me, I want you to go and look in the mirror and think about, and even say aloud, all the things that you've done that's good, because all I do is think about the negative stuff. It's what's been torturing me for years. But she said, look in the mirror and just think about your achievements, your qualities, your sense of humor, whatever it is. And I couldn't do it for days, because the first thing that floods in is when you're looking at yourself in the mirror, you start, well, if you're someone like me, if you're a negative self-talker, you start going through, oh, look at this, look at that, that's bad, oh, once again, you do all that negative stuff. And I finally was able to do that. I thought on Monday morning, you know what, I've been putting this off for a couple of weeks, I'm going to do it. And of course, the first thing that came across my mind as I looked at my reflection in the mirror was, here we go. And then, not because back at the retreat, I remembered that's not going to happen. So I just looked at myself and thought, look at you, I didn't have any makeup on, my hair was scraggly because thyroid and all that shit. But I was thinking, look at you, and I did start thinking about all the things, all the people I did help, the things the books I wrote, the other things I created, the way it's a fault, I give things away. I'm always thinking, oh, that person needs that. But also the dark thoughts, and, you know, just like any other human, I'll admit I've got some evil sides to me if people push the right buttons. But learning how to transmogrify that energy and come from a place of love. I'm trying very much. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video, and please come back if you'd like to check out what else I'm offering. It is a bit of a hodgepodge, but there's a method in my madness, and we'll figure that out one day. But please like the video and subscribe and comment and let me know your experiences with mirrors or thoughts. It would be wonderful. And otherwise, have a wonderful day and hope to talk to you soon.